it after next week.
We welcome in Ben Audie, who is the pride and joy of the BA Coaches Show. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How'd you spend your bye week? Did you go out to the do a little apple picking, which, in honesty, everybody friggin' hates, but they have no idea why they're there.
That's true.
I'll be honest with you. No, I did not. I did what I do every Saturday and just stayed and watched college football.
That sounds boring. All right.
Yes,
on that note,
it.
hey, you're like us. We all did that. Some of us that were fortunate to not have anything on the plate, watched a great weekend of college football. And now that we're going into week 8, and we've kind of seen the landscape of the SEC and the Big Ten, and then the Big 12, the ACC, and the rest of college football, why do you think, and this is my observation, Ben, and I'm wondering if you agree or you want to add to this or you see something different. Why do you think the gap between the top teams and the middle tier, and I'm talking like 15 to 30 in terms of the rankings, is closer than ever?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to NIL and transfer portal. And I think a lot of it really I think transfer portal a lot, just because if you have like a hole in your roster now, it's like instead of throwing a young freshman out there, you can now very easily just go bring in a junior that's coming off of, a good season at a little bit of a mid-tier school. That's a really good player. Now all of a sudden he can go play for the 20th team in the country and be able to play right away. So I think just being able to fill those holes is also, but then also when you look at some of those top schools, is they're losing a lot of players to the transfer portal because of NIL reasons. So I just think I like some of the things that come with the NIL and transfer portal. And I think part of that is closing that gap a little bit between those teams. I don't know your take on it. I'd be interested to hear your take.
No, I think all of that, the NIL, the portal, and I also think players want to play immediately. So the top teams can't stockpile talent. The guy that doesn't want to be the third string quarterback at Alabama and redshirt in his first year wants to go somewhere else so he can play right away. And so I think that benefits a Vanderbilt. Now, at the end of the day, Alabama could come in and grab 5 guys off Vanderbilt's roster. Mm-hmm. But if you want to play immediately, it's not all of a sudden the bright lights. You're like, man, I could go somewhere because the NFL is going to find me no regardless of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I agree completely.
Ben, in kind of with that, what Curt Cignetti, what Indiana, what they have now with a lot of guys that came from James Madison, and we were talking about this a little bit ago, of a team that they're not really worried about, okay, piecing things together and trying to build for the future. Like, this is a year that, hey, they came out hot. They're 6-0. They're already bowl eligible. They've got the second half of the season where they can increase that number even more. Is that a result of kind of what you're talking about there too, where you get some NIL involvement, but more importantly, the transfer portal, where you have that ability as a new coach, take guys over into your system. They already know it. There's no real acclimation period because they're already very familiar with those settings. Is that, a big reason when you look at especially this offense, is that a big reason that you see the success that Cignetti and Indiana are having so far?
Oh, 100%. I think that's a big thing across all of college football right now, is when you look at when a team gets a new coach, if he's coming from the college ranks, the first thing you look for is like, all right, which one of these players are coming with him, right? And I think that's a big part of why Indiana has been able to be so successful on offense this year. I know they haven't been necessarily the most tested, but I've said it on here before, like, hey, you play who you play. It's your job to go do your job, right? Mm. And they've had pretty good seasons so far, especially offensively. And I think a lot of that is the cohesion, bringing all these new players, or all these players from your previous school. You already got that cohesion with your offensive staff, and you're able to just go out there and play. And I'll be real, they have exceeded my expectations, and I think we're in for a pretty good test on Saturday.
That test on Saturday, off of a bye week, looking at what you've looked at with Indiana, more likely to offensively win it running the ball or passing the ball?
That is a good question. Their strength, I think, has been their pass rush. But so I would like to say running the ball. And that's what I'm going to go with, because I have faith in our offensive staff that through this bye week and self-scout, they've been able to figure out some of our issues in the inside run game. because although I really like our little fun plays that we get out to Barney and Bonner and all that, that can't be our bread and butter on how we're going to run the football. So I do have faith in our offensive staff. So I'm going to say we're going to try and run the football, and we're going to be more successful with it because we made some of these adjustments. At least that's what I'm really hoping right now.
Weather will not be an issue, by the way. 70 and sunny in Bloomington. Ben, the part of the bye week that I think everybody always maybe makes more of, we were talking about this when we opened up the show, of what types of things will Nebraska show, or things that they've tightened up. Maybe that's the best way to put it. All eyes are going to be on special teams. But when you look at what can be done with the current personnel that they have, what's your overall expectation, not even just for this game, but second half of the season, of what Nebraska's special teams, especially in the kicking game, and that whole system, the kicking game system, what's your expectation, anticipation for that part?
My expectation on what needs to happen with all of that would just be the discipline issues got to be figured out. And I don't mean like discipline issues like committing penalties or whatever. I'm meaning of just like, hey, we can't be having gunners run through the back of the end zone. We can't be having guys completely missing on blocks on punts, and then execution when it comes to that kicking game of, hey, we got to be able to get these snaps right during the game. We can't be at a spot where no one, I know the game's not at, in Lincoln, but if it was in Lincoln, we can't be at a spot where the entire stadium's not wanting us to kick a field goal, right? That just can't be a thing. Mm-hmm. So I do think that, but to me, the biggest issue has been just the little things of like, hey, we have to know, like we talked about last week, we don't have anyone blocking here. We got to fair catch this kick. It's just little things like that. I think we got to get shored up. And I do have faith that is going to happen. We have an extra bye week. If it can't happen, if we can't do it with the extra week, then I don't know at this point. It's going to be a tough sell for the rest of the season. But with the extra week, I do think, and hey, let's be real, we do have a lot of bad things on film to point out there. So I think the film room can be a good tool there to just be able to point all this bad stuff out. And yeah, we really just got to, when it comes to the kicking game, I do think a lot of the issue has been just the whole operation, the snap to hold the kick. I'll be real, it's a little frustrating when on Friday night you can go watch a high school that has like 400 kids in it hit a 52-yard field goal last week. And Nebraska's not doing that right now. So, hey, we got to figure that out, I guess.
Wow, Nebraska's kicking game just caught a major stray. There is the part, and I keep hanging on this because I think Nebraska has a ceiling of about 28 points. They're going to face two of the top 6 scoring offenses in college football through the first 7 weeks of college football. Indiana's number 2 in the country at 47.5 behind Miami, which is 47.7. And then Ohio State is going to stay in the top 10 with a bye week. They're at 43.5. This offense can scheme things. You can say, hey, I think they're going to get better in the run game. But you know this as a coach. When people design plays, they don't just like design a run play and it stops after 7 yards. They design and they take their little squiggly marker and they send it all the way to the end zone because they design plays that every play is going to score. How does Nebraska, Ben, score points? Because they're going to need to score points, even if that defense only gives up 10 points against an Indiana or 21 against Ohio State. How do they put the ball in the end zone?
So something I went and did last week, and I was kind of like, I went back and rewatched some of the games, not all the games, just because I just didn't really feel like staying through all 6 games. But I did go back and rewatch quite I think 3 or 4 of them. Something I would really like to see is we have been pushing the ball downfield we have some good pass concepts right now. I think that if we tried to mix in some of these pass concepts and tagged it with play action and get these linebackers or safeties just to slow up a little step. Mm-hmm. Like we've been running this dagger concept really well. We've talked about on here how Dylan Raiola is just able to drop it right in the bucket and it's beautiful, right? I think it would be a home run play if we just tag that with a play action just real quick. Because you guys know in major college football, getting that linebacker to slow up just a step or getting that safety to take one step forward when he should be dropping, that is the difference between a 7-yard gain and a 70-yard gain sometimes. It's just that extra step or two. So I do think if we're able to just mix in some of these play action plays, and that starts with getting the run game going a little bit better, right? If we get some of this run game going, we're able to run power effectively. We're able to run inside-outside zone effectively. Then when we do that play action there, it gets that linebacker or safety to just pause a little bit extra second. And that could be the difference between getting, okay, this was a play to, Nair for 17 yards. Now all of a sudden he's going to the house. That's one of the biggest things I saw when I went back and kind of rewatched some of these games is, man, we're just like, some of these plays are right there. If we could just slow this safety up a little bit. So I do think getting the run game effective to then make the play action go would be, I think that could be a game changer.
Matchup wise with what Nebraska has up front defensively versus Indiana. And we talked about Rourke's completion percentage and just trying to get him out of rhythm because very few have been able to do that. Do you like Nebraska having the ability to get home with four guys? Is this another game where Tony White gets creative, sending guys different angles, giving different looks? How do you kind of see that happening? Because obviously Rourke is someone that has to be uncomfortable for Nebraska defensively to have success.
Oh, 100%. I do have faith in our front guys. I really do. I know Indiana has scored a lot of points this year. I truly do believe they have not faced a defense like this, Tony White, and they're not going to face the defensive line like the black shirts are going to be rolling out there on Saturday. I do agree. I think the biggest part is getting them uncomfortable, and I want to be able to stop these drives early because to me, I don't have the number right in front of me, but when I was looking at it, like if Indiana gets in the red zone, they're pretty dang efficient. It was like 30 for 37 or 38, something like that. And they're going to be efficient. So I think if we can, like you said, keep him uncomfortable, but don't let this offense get in a groove. And that's all the way from Rourke to the running backs. I just think if we can keep this offense out of a groove, don't let them get rolling, because that's what they've been able to do through the first half of the season. Is they've been able to put up a bunch of points, but they can once they get rolling, they can be a really dangerous team. So I would really like to we can get a couple 3-and-outs early. I'll really like our chances there.
Ben Oddie joining us. You can follow Ben on Twitter at Coach Oddie and the BA Coaches Show, which you can find on his YouTube channel. The stat that is out there, and I'm not transitive property guy. I'm a week to week. I mean, and honestly, we're all day to day. But college football has become week to week. What do you make of this stat? Because I think you could spin this in a couple of different ways. Every team that has played Nebraska, their following week, the results have added up to 1-5. Something or nothing?
I do think it's something, but not. I mean, if you just look at Matt Rule's history, especially when you go look at him at Temple, he had a very good history of when teams get the week after teams play him, they go out there and lose. I don't think it's something for the way that I saw the Husker Twitter meltdown that I was kind of laughing at on Saturday.
Ooh, what was the meltdown?
Oh, just that Nebraska is not good because somehow we got worse on our bye week is what I was seeing. So I don't know.
Coach's ranking.
Just because, Rutgers goes out there and doesn't look very good. So obviously that means Nebraska's not good. That was just some of the stuff I was seeing, which, you can't.
Ben, hey, you need to mute the transitive property people.
Yeah, I'm with you. But no, I do think it is just something of like, hey, Matt Rule's teams take something out of you. That's the way. That's what he said. That's what he said very early on in his time in Nebraska. And you go look at things I don't know the stats at Baylor, but I assume they were pretty similar. So I just remember at Temple that being a thing with him of teams after playing him, the winning percentage was significantly lower. So I do think that's hopefully something we see at Nebraska, because I kind of like the idea of being the team that breaks people. That just kind of sounds real cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This sounds weird. I remember it was the 2019 season when Illinois was playing, and the Nebraskans ended up winning that game, but Illinois was leaving lasting effects on teams, even though they weren't winning that many games. And hey, if you could have that reputation, so be it. Hey, I wanted to ask you about this one though. Last time Dylan Ryla went on the road this season was against a struggling Purdue team. Nebraska collectively as a team struggled in the first half, getting the ball in the end zone, but the second half they turned it on. Now you're going into your second road game. It's against a ranked team, a team that's flying high both offensively and defensively, feeling pretty good about themselves. But you also had a bye week for Dylan Ryla for a freshman quarterback. Just in your experience, I know we could talk about so many different ways that a bye week can impact the team, but just Dylan individually, what he's been able to learn the first 6 games, what you expect him to take away from that week off, and also processing the first half of the season. What's your expectation now with Dylan coming out of the bye week?
I expect some of these, I guess, little mistakes to be improved. I think a lot of the things that we've seen through the first weeks that have been very high positives with him, we've also seen, just a little bit of just typical freshman negatives. I don't mean that as a bad thing. I mean, every quarterback in the country is going to have negatives, especially a true freshman right now. And I do think that Glenn Thomas is a fantastic quarterback coach, and that offensive, GA quality controllers are going to have a whole bunch of good cut-ups for him to just be like, hey, you missed this one little thing. Like, I think especially the last 2 weeks, like, hey, we just missed some open guys. And that happens. It really does. But I do think, and I just really hope we get some of that confidence back from him after this bye week and going through it. That was the biggest thing that I thought we were kind of missing towards the end of that Rutgers game, was just some of that confidence, I guess. So I really hope after the bye week, we get some of that mojo back. We get confident in the whole operation of offense, and we go out there and score some points. Because I do think we're going to have to score some points to beat this Indiana team. I really do. I have complete faith in our defense. I don't think they're going to go out there and, have a bad game. I'm just saying I think we're going to have to put up, 20-something points, just because I think this Indiana offense is pretty solid.
Yeah, the total is stated 51.5. The line has changed a little bit, but the total has pretty much remained the same. What do we have coming up this week to get people ready for the game on Saturday in Bloomington?
Oh, we got the BA Coaches Show. That's going to be coming out tomorrow. We're going to have a blog on nbnrpodcast.com coming out sometime later today, just kind of recapping that first part of the season. So, yeah, you just go check all that stuff out. I also made an appearance on the Husker Army podcast with someone you guys might remember, Kenny Cheatham. He's on there. I made an appearance on their show. That's coming out here later today. So good stuff coming out for the BA Coaches Show here this week.
Fantastic. Ben, have a great week. Look forward to your reaction to what we see on Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.